Welcome back to part 2 of our Unit 1 exam prep worksheet. Okay, this is an exam review worksheet that we've been working on. There is a part 1 video that covers the whole first half of this. We are about to begin part 2, which is the second half of this worksheet from Unit 1 or Module 1 in this course. All right, let's get started. Write the equation of a circle in standard form, then identify the center of the circle and the radius. So I see 3 tasks here. One is I need the equation of the circle in standard form. After that, I need to identify the center of the circle and the radius. 2 and 3 can be accomplished simply by doing the first task, which is finding the equation of a circle. So let's see what they give me here. They give me 3x squared plus 3y squared plus 6x minus 24y plus 30 equals 0. So I'm looking at this, and in order to get an equation of a circle from something of this nature, I'm going to have to use the process of completing the square. Okay? I'm going to have to do it for my x variables and also for my y variables, excuse me, but I'm going to do them together as I go. The first thing I want to do here is to organize my process. I'm going to write my equation so that my x's are together and my y's are together. So I have 3x squared plus 6x, all right, and I also have a 3y squared and a minus 24y, and then I have this little doohickey thing in the end, plus 30 equals 0. Now, I need to remember the process or the steps for completing the square. In mathematics, we use the word algorithm. Okay, there's an algorithm for completing the square. All that means is algorithm is a fancy mathematical word for the steps or the process. Okay, so I know 2 things. First of all, whatever my a value is, okay? So whatever is in front of my x squared or my y squared, I want that to be 1. Okay, right now there's a 3 in front of both of them. So I'm going to just divide everything by 3. Okay, and that will give me a 1 in front of my x squared, and that will give me a 1 in front of my y squared. And the second thing is, anything that doesn't have a variable, which is my 30, I'm going to want to get over to the other side. All right, so let's do this one step at a time. First, let's divide everything on the left by 3. And in order to keep my equation balanced, I want to divide everything on the right by 3. All right, so now I'm going to divide everything by 3. Everything. Okay, so 3x squared divided by 3 is x squared. Okay, 6x divided by 3 would be plus 2x plus y squared minus 8y plus 10 equals 0 divided by 3 is still 0. All right, good. Step 1. I now have a 1 in front of my x squared and my y squared, which is going to make this process easy. All right, the second step is I am going to take that 10, all right, and I'm going to subtract it from both sides. Okay, I'm going to get my only term, which is 10 without a variable, over on one side alone. So I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. And I'm going to rewrite this bad boy. So I've got x squared plus 2x plus y squared minus 8y equals negative 10. All right. Now, this was just all algebra work. It was fairly, simple. Here's the part to completing the square that you have to know. I have to take my b value. I need to cut it in half, and then I need to square it. That's going to give me a number that I must add to both sides, okay? And that will complete my squares for my x's, and it will complete my squares for my y's. So I need to do this for both the x and the y's. So my b value for my x is 2, and my b value for my y is negative 8. So I'm going to do this process to both of them, okay? So let's start with the x's here. I take my 2, I divide it by 2, and I square it. Well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, and if I square it, 1 squared is 1. Now, I realize you can probably go right from here to this value, but there's a reason I have this, okay? And I'm going to do the same thing with my y's, and I'm going to do it the same method. So y, my b value is negative 8, so I take negative 8, I divide it by 2, and I square it. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4 squared, which is 16, okay? So now I have the two values that I want to add to both sides right here in front of my face. So let's do just that. I'm going to add 1 to my x's. What I do to one side, I need to do to the other. All right? And then I am going to add 16 for my y's. Okay, let's continue to work this out. Now we're just going to rewrite this. I have x squared plus 2x plus 1. All right? Now I have plus y squared minus 8y plus 16 equals 7. If I combine all these, I should get 7. All right, let's go up here, make sure we didn't, you know, it's plus 30, it's we're good, we're good. All right. All right, I can now complete the square for my x's and for my y's. And this right here is why this comes in handy. All right, so what do I mean? Well, this is now a perfect square, okay? This is now a perfect square. It's x plus or minus something squared. All right, if you are not good at factoring, your answer is right here. What's in parentheses here? It's a positive 1, isn't it? Which means, guess what? The positive 1 goes in parentheses there. Same thing with the y's. Okay, I've completed the square here. That's a perfect square. It's y plus or minus something squared. If you are not good at factoring, what goes in parentheses here is the same thing that's in parentheses here. It's a negative 4. That equals 7. You have now created an equation, standard form of a circle right here. All right, that's the first thing. But there were two other things. If we go back to our equation, we need to identify the center of the circle and the radius. All right, so the center of the circle are these values here. They are inside parentheses. I've got to flip the signs, which means this goes from positive 1 to negative 1. This goes from negative 4 to positive 4. This is the center of the circle. All right. And it also asks me for the radius. Well, in the equation of a circle, this value is the radius squared. So if the radius squared is 7, that's all fine and dandy. They don't want the radius squared. They just want the radius. I use some opposite math. The radius is the square root of 7. Done and done. That problem took some time. But what do we have here with this problem? We have our equation of a circle in standard form. We have our center, and we have our radius. Those are the three things that it asked me for, and we're good to go. Let's move forward. Okay. The next problem states, write an equation of a parabola with the focus negative 1, 2, and the directrix of y equals 4. All right, I really like these problems because if you know some basic information, they become easy. All right, let's go right down here, and A, B, and C. We'll start with A. State the vertex. All right, one thing involving the vertex and the focus and the directrix is that the vertex is always exactly in between my focus and my directrix, okay? So let's plot these things, shall we? Green here for the focus. Negative 1, 2. So I would go to negative 1, 2. That's this point right here. That's my focus. Negative 1, 2. All right? Now my directrix, which I will do in red, is y equals 4. Ho-ho. 1, 2, 3. This is where y equals 4. So it's this line right here. And if you remember what I said, the directrix, or excuse me, the vertex is always right in between. This point right here is right in between the directrix and vertex. Excuse me, the directrix and focus. That is the vertex. That point that I just plotted here in blue is negative 1, 3. Okay? That's the vertex. So the vertex is negative 1, 3. Simple. All right? Now, it wants us to write the equation of the parabola. All right, this really isn't too bad. I'm going to use the vertex form. How come? I already have the vertex. That's real easy. My vertex form is the following. Y equals A times x minus h squared plus k. H and k are the vertex. It's the coordinates. So I'm going to throw in h and k right now. Okay? So y equals a times x. If I subtract h, which is a negative 1, subtracting a negative is like adding. Okay? K is 3, so plus 3. The only thing is I don't know what this a value is. Okay? A is the same as 1 over 4c. The question is, what does the c represent? C is the distance, okay, from the directrix to the vertex. All right? You see this little distance right here? It's a distance of 1. I go down 1, okay? I go down 1 to get from my red line to that blue dot. Okay? That's what C represents. So C is negative 1. It's this distance between the directrix and the vertex. It always is. It always is. C is from the directrix to the vertex. In this case, we go down 1, negative 1. So I have 1 over 4 times negative 1. So my a value is the fraction negative 1/4. Okay? So all I'm going to do is put that in here right now. Right? For a, y equals negative 1/4 x plus 1 squared plus 3. That is my equation. Pretty simple. Now, last but not least, okay, well, I'm going to erase this because now I'm just going to create some room here, not erase everything, just what was written. I need to sketch this parabola. All right? I know it opens down. Okay, my parabola is going to open something like that because my parabola should never cross my directrix or that red line. Okay, my focus, this little point here, should always be inside the parabola. All right, my question is, how wide should this parabola be? Should it be like I drew it in blue? Should it be wider, like this yellow one? Should it be more narrow, like this purple one? I got to figure out the width. Okay, and I'm going to do that right now. 4c. Okay, if I take the absolute value of it, this value 4c, you see how it equals negative 4? Right? It's this value right here. It's 4. Okay? Whatever the denominator is here, okay, the bottom, 4c, that's something that we call the focal width. Okay? That tells you how wide your parabola is going to be at the focus. So, the focus is this green dot. It should be 4 wide, which means I got to go 2 to the right and 2 to the left. Okay. That has a focal width of 4. Okay. That means, I'm going to draw this in yellow, starting from my vertex, I'm going to go through this point like that, and through this point like that, okay? Because right at that horizontal imaginary line, which I will do in purple dots here, yellow dot, right at this little point here where the focus is, it should have a width of 4, and it does. That's what 4C represents. Where did I get 4C? It's right here. C was negative 1. Okay, 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Okay, I can make that negative 4 and say whatever the absolute value of that is. It's your focal width. It's really easy. If you know this thing right here, if you know this, okay, and you know 4C is your focal width, and you realize that the vertex is always in between your focus and directrix, you can graph any one of these without a calculator. Of course, you know, if this is a test and you have a calculator, once you come up with your equation right here, you can just put that into y1 and look at your table and plot those points. But guess what? It would look exactly like I wrote here in yellow. Oh, back to basics. Solve each of the following by factoring. I don't want you to solve this graphically. I don't want you to use the quadratic formula. I want you to factor to solve these things. Okay? First one. Okay, what can I factor out of the left? Both of them have a 4 and an x as a greatest common factor, which means I'm going to divide both sides by 4x. 4's go bye-bye, and one of these x's go bye-bye. So I have an x minus. The x's go bye-bye. 24 divided by 4 is 6 equals 0. So now I really have this factored out nicely. Okay, I'm just going to solve each one of these. T-bone this. I say if 4x equals 0 and x minus 6 equals 0, I just solve each one of these for x. Divide this by 4, bye-bye. 0 divided by anything is 0. That's one of our answers. Okay, I add 6 to both sides. Bye-bye. X equals 6. Boom. There you go. Done and done. Simple stuff. After completing the square, after doing that directrix and focus and vertex stuff, this is a cakewalk. All right, let's look at B. Okay, I'm going to do slip and slide because I love that the best. All right, I'm going to slip the 2 out back here and multiply 10 times 2. Gone. So I've got x squared minus x minus 20 equals 0. Now, because they're telling me I got to solve this by factoring, this should be factorable. But the reason I like slip and slide is, if I can't factor this, x squared minus x minus 20, I know my original equation is not factorable, and I would have had to use the quadratic formula. Okay? But I'm looking at this, and I know this is factorable. Okay? Two things that multiply to be negative 20, that add to negative 1. I know I've got x's here. Minus 5, positive 4. If I multiply those, I get negative 20, these two numbers. And if I add them, I get negative 1. But here's the kick. A lot of students start to solve this. They say, okay, T-bone this, solve this. No, no, no. Okay, there's one more step for completing the square. You see how I multiplied this 2 out back? I can't just leave it like that. I got to bring it back in the opposite way I took it out. Okay, if I walk out a door, I got to do the opposite and walk in the door to have things the way they started, don't I? Okay, I multiplied a 2 to the back, which means to bring it back in, I got to divide my 2 into the backs here. All right, and I need to simplify them if I can. So what do I mean? Well, 4 divided by 2, that's 2. All right, I cannot simplify this fraction here, 5 over 2. Okay, even if I could simplify it and it stayed a fraction, what I end up doing is the following. Bottoms up. Once I simplified it, if I have a denominator, I bring the bottom up front here. So I got 2x, and then my minus 5 stays here. This is factored completely, so they want us to factor and solve. So now is when I T-bone this. Okay, this side I should get x equals negative 2. Okay, Mister, how'd you get that? Remember, this is x plus 2 equals 0. If I subtract 2 from both sides, x equals -2. Here on the left side, this is a basic two-step equation. I add 5 first, 2x equals 5, and then I divide by 2. So x is 5 halves. All right, x is 5 halves, x equals -2. Factored, done, boom, boom, basic math. You're going to have to know how to factor for the rest of your life in mathematics classes, okay? If you've gotten this far and you don't know how to factor, God bless you. I don't know how you did it, but you're going to still need it, okay? If you go into pre-calculus, whatever, college readiness, you go into calculus, you are definitely going to have to know how to factor. Graph on the axis below, and then label the solution to this, label the solution set S. And then eventually state the coordinates of one point in the solution set S that you label. All right, look it. You have a calculator. Let's use it. Let's just change this to an equal sign for right now. I'm going to graph this parabola right here. I'm going to look at the table, and I'm going to put the points on the graph, okay? So in your calculator, turn this bad boy on, y equals, say x squared minus 2x minus 8. When I graph it, this is what my parabola should look like. Okay? I want to know what points those are, so I'm going to go to my table. And I'm going to say right here. Bring this out, and I'm going to plot these points right here. All right? This is 10 by 10, so I'm going to go -2, 0, which is right here. Did the first one. -1, -5, right here. 0, -8, right here. 1, -9, and then it reflects. I have 2, -8, which is right here. 3, -5, which is right here. And 4, 0. So I'm going to do this, and it's going to look something before I draw this line. Okay, I'm going to get this out of the way. We used our table. I'm going to cut this. Now, before I draw the line, I want to explain one thing when it comes to graphing inequalities. This sign, this inequality sign right here is critical as to how you draw your graph. The line, I should say, of the parabola. All right, I was just about to draw a straight line, and it just so happens that's correct, but sometimes it's not. If I have an inequality sign that is equal, which means there's a straight line underneath it, then my parabola will be a straight line. Okay, whether it opens up or down, it don't matter. But if I don't have those those equal signs here, it's not a straight line. It would have to be a dashed line. I got to dash it. That's how the graph tells me whether my inequality has the equal sign or not, okay? In this case, we do have that. So it is going to be a straight line. So when I graph this, I'll use a straight line, like so. Okay? Now, for poo-poos and ha-has, if it were one of these symbols here, if this was like that, less than, or if it was just greater than, my dashed line would look something like that, okay? You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. That's how I know just by looking at the graph which set of signs my equation should have, all right? So let's go back here and do this the right way. Keep on going, going. There we go. So my graph should look something like this. Now I've got to shade the answer. So the answer is either going to be, all right, it's either going to be everything in between here, or it's going to be everything on the outside. It's not going to be both, okay? So how do I determine whether my answer is going to be that yellow area or the green area? I pick a point that's either in the yellow or the green area, and I test it out. Meaning, the easiest point to test, okay, I don't want to pick a point on the line. The easiest point to test, and it just so happens the origin is not in, or not on the line. The origin has an coordinates of 0, 0. If I put 0 in for x and a 0 in for y, and it works, obviously the 0 is a solution, so the yellow area that has the origin is a solution. If I try putting this in and it does not work, okay, then obviously the origin should not be a solution, so it would just be the green area. It would be the area that does not have the origin, okay? So what I'm going to do here is, oh, yes, nice, it works. Well, you know what? Let's wait. Let's make it, let's add a little suspense here. 0 for y. 0 for x squared minus 2 times 0 for x minus 8. So 0, bye-bye, bye-bye. Is 0 less than or equal to negative 8? No. 0 is bigger than a negative 8. So do I shade the region with my origin in it? No, I do not. So, ha-ha, ha-ha, bam. That's what it should look like shaded. You should shade everything on the outside because my origin here in red is not in the solution area. So wherever this origin is, that should not be shaded. Okay? Now I shaded it. They said you should label it S. So in order to get credit for this test, please put an S there because that's what it says to do, not just to shade it. I use S for shading. So last but not least, they want me to state the coordinates of one point in this solution area. And there are an infinite amount of answers, meaning I could pick any point that is in this green area in the S. Let's pick this one right here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for my X, and 1, 2, 3 for my Y. 7, 3. There you go. Could I have picked 8, 0? Sure. Could I have picked 9, negative 2? Absolutely. Could I have picked the origin? No, I could not have. Okay? Pretty simple. All right. Solve the system of 3 equations and 3 unknowns. I have recently figured out a way to do this on the calculator, and by saying figured out a way, someone told me of a way to do it. It's easier to do, and I was told that doing it in the calculator is still algebraic as long as you write your work from the calculator. All right? So this is what we're going to do. The first thing I need to do is make sure that all my equations, I have an x, a y, and a z, that they're all lined up. And when I say all lined up, all my x's are right here, all my y's are right here, all my z's are right here, and they equal some random number. If they are not like that, I'm going to have to change that. Like this first equation, if I had x plus y equals 4 plus z, I have to get the z over and put it after the y like my other two equations are. So I would have to subtract this and get it right into the right form. It's already set like that. All right? So here's the thing. I am going to show you how to do this in the calculator. Wonderful. Get my calculator, turn it on, and you need to go to matrix. All right? In blue, above this x to the negative 1, it says matrix here. So I hit second, boom. And I want to edit one of these matrices. Okay, so I'm going to go to edit. And they have A, B, C. You can use a ton of them. Let's just use A. We're going to use A and enter that in. Now, I need to make my matrix 3 by 4. So why is that? Why do I need this to be 3 by 4? Well, let me explain to you. Do I have another highlighter color? Let's go with orange. Okay. You see, I'm going to go with a lighter orange. Let's go with a pink. Oh, yeah. See, there are currently 4 columns, correct? There's a yellow, green, blue, and purple. But I have 3 rows. Okay. This is why I'm going to make this 3 by 4. Okay. So my matrix needs to be 3 by 4. So I'm going to put 3 by 4. Boom. And look at that. I have 3 zeros here, but then if I move over one more, there's a fourth column. And you can see these little brackets end my matrix. So what I'm going to put here is all of my coefficients in numbers and no letters. Meaning, this is 1x, 1y, and minus 1z, and I have a 4 here. 1x, negative 2 for my y, positive 3 for my z, and negative 6 for the answer. And likewise, at the bottom, I have 2x plus 3y plus 1z equals 7. So I'm literally going to type these in. So this first equation, my numbers are 1. I have another 1. Then in front of my z is negative 1. Then my answer is 4. So I go on to the next one. I just type them in. 1x, this is my middle equation. Minus, or negative 2 for the y's. A 3 for my z's. And then negative 6 is my solution. And the last equation is a 2 for my x, a 3 for my y, a 1 for my z, and a 7 as my, let's go back here. 7 is a solution, okay? So let's go here. So what do I have here in my matrix? I literally have, okay, see all my x's? 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Yellow, see all my y's? 1, negative 2, 3, 1, negative 2, 3. All right? See all my blues? Negative 1, 3, positive 1, bam. And then off to the right here, I have, what you can't see, I'd have to scroll over. I have my 4, my negative 6, and my 7. So that's all we've done. That's why they've got to line up that way. So they line up nice in the calculator. So how do I get the calculator to give me the answer? Very simple. I quit this. Boom. Clear that screen. I go back to matrix. And I edit, or I do math. I want my calculator to do math for me. And for some reason, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know what this means, I go to RREF, which is choice B. I don't go to ref, I go to RREF. What that means is just calculate my matrix for me. So I hit enter, and now I got to put what matrix I entered everything in. We entered it into matrix A. So I go back to matrix, and see number 1 is A. It even says it's 3 by 4. I'm going to pick this and hit enter. And this is my answer. You might be saying to yourself, Visca, what in God's name does this mean? Okay, remember, wasn't our first column X, our middle column Y, and our third column Z, and this is what they equaled? Well, let's look at this first one. I have 1X plus 0 Y's. We're just looking at this right now. Plus 0 Z's equals 1. Guess what? If I have 0 Y's and 0 X's, my X is 1. Simple enough. Let's look at the middle one. I have 0 X's plus I have 1Y plus 0 Z's, and that equals 2. Okay, so guess what? Y is 2, and Z is negative 1. I don't have to write this out, okay? I'm just trying to explain to you what it means. My X is 1. My Y is 2. My Z is negative 1. Okay, so my answer, when everything is all said and done, is 1, 2, negative 1. That's my X, my Y, and my Z. Here's the kick. If this were a short answer problem on a test, what would you have to show to get this answer? First of all, you'd have to show the big matrix that we put everything in here. We had 1, 1, negative 1, and 4. 1, negative 2, 3, and negative 6. 2, 3, 1, and 7. Okay? And right next to that, you need to show this. Okay, so I had 1, 0, 0, and my answer was 1. I need my 0, 1, 0. My answer was 2. And 0, 0, 1. And my answer was, is that a negative 1? I think it is. It is. Okay, everything I did on the board was explanation. If I got rid of everything, the only thing you would need to show on this board to get full credits for showing your work is this right here. That's it. You just need to show this, your matrix you started with, the answer you got from your matrix when you did your calculation, and just write your answer. That is all you need to show. And it's all done in the calculator. If you have questions, rewind it, watch it again until you get it. Then go online and search for 3 equations or 3 unknowns in 3 equations. It'll give you something like this, and try and do it. Make sure you know they tell you what the answer is. Try and do it in the calculator and see if you can get the answer. We have a test coming up. Take a look at this stuff. That's why I do it. See ya. Good luck. You got this test.